Hi everyone, this is Robert. Welcome to In Deep Geek. The season finale of Sherlock made us look afresh at the character of Jim Moriarty. Was he just a frontman for Eurus? Is he even really dead? Well, first of all, yes, Moriarty is really dead. When he shot himself on the roof of St. Bart's Hospital, he really did kill himself. But it wasn't all his idea. We thought at the time that Sherlock had found his nemesis, an opponent worthy of him that came closer than anyone else to destroying him. In fact, it was an act. Jim Moriarty was all of the things he claimed to be. A bored, unhinged criminal genius, obsessed with Sherlock and willing to die as his last move in a great game against him. But he was not the mastermind behind what happened. And he didn't think he had backed Sherlock into a corner from which his suicide was the only option. In fact, he expected Sherlock to survive. To understand this properly, let's look at the events in the order they actually happened, rather than the order they appear in the show. Eurus, as we saw in the final problem, is Sherlock's sister. She grew up with the Holmes boys, but was put into a high-security prison complex at a young age. Sherlock buried his memory of her, but she didn't forget him, and she kept a careful eye on him when she could. The opportunities for this came more readily than you might think, as Mycroft was using her for the British government, giving her access to the internet, for example, to predict terrorist attacks. Through this, she discovered the existence of Moriarty, more than 5 years before the events of the final problem. She saw a criminal mastermind with an unhealthy obsession about Sherlock, who had, much to Mycroft's frustration, managed to avoid being found guilty for any of his crimes. Her arrangement with Mycroft was that, in exchange for her helping him, he would give her a Christmas present. 1 year a Stradivarius violin, the next year 5 unmonitored minutes with Jim Moriarty. We don't know exactly what was said in that time, but she recruited him, showing him that she knew Sherlock's deepest secrets better than anyone else. They plotted out, or perhaps Eurus decided, the entirety of Moriarty's plans in seasons 1 and 2. Moriarty's death, his apparent return through the "Miss Me" message, how and when Eurus would reappear in the outside world, tempting them to Sherlock, and the games she would play with them when they got there. Moriarty recorded all of these videos we saw in the final problem, as well as the "Miss Me" clip, just before the events of the Reichenbach fall and his death. He also obtained Faith Smith's note from Culverton Smith and gave it to Eurus, allowing her to take on the role of Faith Smith at the start of The Lying Detective. At some point amidst all this, Eurus managed to get control over the prison governor, allowing her to leave her confinement. All this means that Eurus was playing a very, very long game, knowing exactly what games she wanted to play with Sherlock years later, tormenting him before recreating that childhood trauma of his best friend trapped in a well while he tries desperately to solve her riddle. It also means that she was not wanting or expecting Sherlock to die on that hospital rooftop. Nor did Jim Moriarty. They expected Sherlock to be able to escape. Moriarty wanted to cause trouble, because he was bored, and he didn't mind committing suicide, not because he thought he had won then, but because he was confident that Eurus would extract revenge on Sherlock. His video recordings, the "Miss Me" from behind the grave, and the many messages in Sherlock were a sign of that confidence. She had been using him to draw Sherlock in, to play with him, to give him a face of an arch-enemy that was not hers, and Moriarty was happy to be a part of it. Does this mean that Moriarty was any less Sherlock's equal, or that he wasn't guilty of the crimes he committed? No. It just means that he, like Sherlock, like John and Mycroft and so many other people, were playing Eurus's game all that time. It was just that he, unlike the rest of them, knew it and embraced it with everything he had. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like it. If you want to see more like this one, please click on the subscribe button. And if you want to support the channel in other ways, please check out my Patreon page. Thanks again. That's all for this time. I'll see you again real soon.